Somewhere in you, there is a full-time employee who never clocks out. Its job title is me, maintaining me, defending me, promoting me, checking how me is doing in the rankings. It works nights, it works weekends. And here's the question nobody asks. Who hired it? Last episode, we left with a question that points straight at this. On your most exhausting day this month, what actually spent you? The things you did, or the things you could not put down? Amy, you carried that one for a week. How was your inner weather?
Heavy fog, Leo, with one very unexpected window of blue. I actually went looking for my most exhausting day. It was Tuesday. Long day, back-to-back everything. And when I did the audit that night, the honest answer embarrassed me. The meetings didn't spend me. The errands didn't spend me. What spent me was one sentence a colleague said at 9 in the morning, which I then carried like a hot stone for 11 hours, setting it down, picking it back up, rehearsing what I should have said. The work was 3 pounds. The stone was 30. The window of blue came Friday, at my own front door. I'd mostly forgotten the doorway practice from last chapter, but that evening I remembered. One breath at the threshold. And in that breath, I caught myself about to carry the entire workday into the kitchen, like luggage nobody asked me to bring. I set it down. Not perfectly, it followed me in any way. But for one breath, I saw the difference between what the day had asked of me and what I was volunteering to keep hauling.
Luggage nobody asked you to bring. That's the whole audit in one image. My weather was a long gray drizzle with one strange clearing. My honest discovery this week? The heaviest thing I carry is the version of me that needs defending. I noticed it in the smallest place. Someone corrected a detail I'd gotten wrong, harmlessly, kindly even. And for 2 hours, a little lawyer in my chest kept drafting closing arguments. Nobody had pressed charges. The court was in session anyway. The clearing came when I finally asked your Tuesday question in my own words. Who is this exhausting day actually for? And for a second, the lawyer had no client. That second was so quiet, it startled me. And that second, friends, is the doorway into today. Because this week, Lao Tzu asks the same question at the largest scale imaginable. He points at the 2 oldest things a human being can point at, the sky over your head and the ground under your feet. And he asks, why are these 2 still here when everything else wears out? His answer has 5 words at its center, and they will sound completely backwards. They do not live for themselves. Welcome to Chapter 7. Hello and welcome back, friends, to the Road to Awakening. I'm Leo, and today we begin Chapter 7 of the Tao Te Ching, a tiny chapter with an enormous claim that the reason you are so tired is a job heaven and earth never took, and that the part of you that sets that job down is the part that lasts. As always at the head of a chapter, we hear the whole of it first. Amy, would you read it for us?
Gladly. It's short, 7 lines. Don't analyze, just let it land. Chapter 7. Absence of self-interest. Heaven is everlasting and earth is enduring. The reason that they are everlasting is because heaven and earth do not exist for themselves, hence they are long-lived. Although the saint puts himself last, finds himself in the lead. Although he has no concern for self-preservation, finds himself preserved. Because he has no concern for self-interest, thus can achieve his own interest.
Thank you, Amy. Today we stay with the first movement, the lines about heaven and earth. Next time, the saint who puts himself last. And in the final part, the 2 lines that hold the deepest secret in the chapter. So, the opening. Heaven is everlasting, and earth is enduring.
Can I say what strikes me first? It's almost not a teaching, It's just a weather report on the universe. The sky is old. The ground is old. Everybody already agrees. Why open there?
Because Lao Tzu almost never argues from doctrine. He argues from what's in front of your face. He doesn't say, "Believe me, the ancient books say so." He says, "Look up." That sky was there before your grandmother's grandmother, and not one morning has it failed to open. The ground held every kingdom that ever rose, and quietly received every kingdom that ever fell. He starts with the one fact no listener can dispute, and then he asks the question a child would ask and an adult forgets to. Why? Why do the two biggest things last the longest? By every rule we live by, the biggest player should burn out first, the biggest ego, the biggest appetite, the biggest overhead. And the oldest things in sight have none.
So the opening line is bait. He gets you to nod at something obvious, and the nod commits you to the strange answer coming next.
Exactly. And here is the strange answer. The reason that they are everlasting is because heaven and earth do not exist for themselves. Hence, they are long-lived. Sit with how odd that is. Not because they are powerful, not because they are vast, because they do not exist for themselves. The sun never once shone in order to be thanked. The rain never checked which fields deserved it. The ground carries saints and swindlers at exactly the same price. Free. An old commentator from the 3rd century, Wang Bi, compressed the whole mechanism into one line. He wrote, "To live for yourself is to contend with all things. To not live for yourself is to have all things returned to you." The moment there's a self to feed, everything else becomes either food or competition. And the fight begins, and fights end. Drop the self-feeding, and nothing is against you, because you are not against anything. What has no opponent cannot be defeated. What grabs nothing cannot be emptied. That's not morality. That's engineering.
Say more about that, because not existing for yourself still sounds like it should be fatal. Everything alive protects itself. That's what alive means, isn't it?
Watch a tree. The part of the tree you can see, trunk, branches, leaves, flowers, fruit, all of it is fed by the part you can't see. The root spends its entire existence in the dark, pushing water and minerals upward, and it never comes up to take a bow. No fruit has ever been named after a root. And yet, as long as there are leaves, there is a root. The supported and the support exist together, or not at all. The root's life is completely poured into what is not itself, and precisely because of that, it is never discarded. That is, heaven and earth do not exist for themselves, in your own backyard. And why reach for a tree of all things? Because Lao Tzu never asks you to believe what you cannot check. This image puts the proof in your own street, and it catches, in one glance, how the unseen quietly funds the seen without ever filing a claim. Which is exactly where the practice hides. The next time you're doing root work, the unseen kind, holding someone's day up from below, where nobody notices, watch for the urge to surface and take a bow. You don't have to fight the urge. Just seeing it and staying in the dark one breath longer is how a human being does what the root does. And now flip it over. There is one thing in nature that does exist entirely for itself, and we all know its name.
You're going to say a cancer cell, aren't you?
I am, because there is no cleaner mirror. Think about the body you're sitting in right now. Not one organ in it is selfish. Your heart has beaten 100,000 times since yesterday, not once for itself. The blood it pumps is for everything else. Your liver detoxifies for the whole body. Your white blood cells will throw themselves at an infection and die in the fight by the millions without a moment's negotiation. Every healthy cell you have obeys the law of heaven and earth. It does not exist for itself. Hence, the body lives. And then one cell opts out. It stops serving the whole and starts serving its own growth, grabbing nutrients, multiplying, building itself an empire. We call it cancer. And notice the ending it writes for itself. By destroying the body, it destroys the only ground it stands on. The most self-serving cell in the body is the one that ends with nothing. Now, why this image and not a gentler one? Because it removes the moral finger wag entirely. Lao Tzu is not scolding you for selfishness. He's showing you the physics of it. Selfishness isn't wicked first. It's structurally fatal first. The tighter the grip, the faster the loss. Not as punishment, but the way a fist loses water. And the practice hiding inside the image is this. You don't need to hunt down some villain inside you. You only need to notice the moment an ordinary cell of a thought turns cancerous. The moment our project quietly becomes my credit. The moment dinner for the family becomes, does anyone appreciate what I do? That turn happens in half a second, dozens of times a day. Seeing the turn, just seeing it, is the immune system.
Okay, but I need to raise the flag I think many listeners are already waving. Do not exist for yourself. To a lot of us, that sounds like a recipe for being a doormat. Give until you're empty, want nothing, defend nothing. Honestly, some of us were raised on exactly that, and it broke us. How is this not that?
Amy, that flag matters more than anything else in this episode, so let's plant it deep. Self-sacrifice, the kind that breaks people, has a very specific anatomy. There is a self standing in the middle, counting the cost. It gives, and it logs the giving. It suffers, and it files the suffering. And sooner or later, the ledger comes due, after everything I did for them. That is not what heaven and earth are doing. The sun is not gritting its teeth. The rain is not keeping receipts. There is no one at the center doing the accounting at all. The giving is just its nature, the way water is wet. And here's the test you can run on yourself this week in real life. It takes half a second. You do something kind. You cover for a colleague. You refill the shared coffee. You handle the pickup that wasn't your turn. And then, nothing comes back. No thanks. No one even noticed. Right there, feel it. Something in your chest tightens, just for half a second, and a voice immediately says, "Well, I didn't do it for the credit." Friends, that sentence is the receipt. Some part of you was waiting, or there would be nothing to tighten. Now, and this is the whole practice, you do not need to fix that part, scold it, or vow to be purer next time. Scolding it is just the self doing its accounting on a new page. You only need to see it. Ah, an account just opened. Seen clearly, in that instant, it has no more force. The entry stops writing itself. Not responding to it and not clinging to it is not something you do by command, by telling your mind, stop wanting thanks. It happens by itself the moment you see the thought for what it is, something that arose on conditions and is already dissolving, like every thought before it. You can't order a wave to stop. You can notice it's water.
So the practice isn't want nothing. It's watch the wanting arrive and watch it leave. Because it does leave if I don't feed it.
It leaves every time. It always has. You've just never stayed to watch the whole show. And friends, if you're still here with us, may I pause for one breath? Because this middle point is exactly what the road to awakening exists for. We're a small show, 2 voices, trying to make the oldest teachings walkable in an ordinary week. No incense required. If today's half-second test named something you've felt for years and never had words for, there's one small thing you can do for us. Subscribe to our channel, Voice of Heavenly Tao, and pass this episode to one person who's been giving with a full ledger and an empty tank. You'd be handing them a way to set the ledger down. Thank you, truly. Now, back to the deep end. Because I want to show you how widely this law was seen. Half a millennium after Lao Tzu, different tradition, same country, the doctrine of the mean says, "The way of heaven and earth can be summed up in one sentence. It is without doubleness, and so it gives rise to things unfathomably." Without doubleness. No second agenda running under the first. When the sky rains, all of it rains. There's no hidden thread going, "And what do I get?" And the text connects that purity directly to inexhaustible creativity. Because nothing leaks into a second agenda, the giving never runs dry. Now hear the same structure from the other side of the world. In the Gospel of John, Jesus says, "Unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit." A grain in the pantry, keeping itself, is one grain forever, perfectly preserved and perfectly alone. The grain that lets go of being a grain becomes a field. Keeping yourself intact and staying truly alive, it turns out, can be opposite instructions.
Hold on. The grain that keeps itself stays alone. That one stings in a very modern way. Because that's half of what we call self-care now, isn't it? Guard your energy, protect your peace, keep the boundaries sealed. And I'm for all of it. And yet, some evenings, the fortress works perfectly, and it is so quiet in there, and I am so alone inside it.
And notice the precision of the image. The grain in the pantry isn't punished. Nothing attacks it. It stays perfectly safe, perfectly whole, and perfectly alone. That is the entire sentence. Boundaries have their season. A seed needs its husk through the winter. But a husk is shelter, not a residence. The moment protecting my peace becomes the organizing principle of a whole life, we have moved into the pantry, intact, and out of the harvest. What both teachers are pointing at is that aliveness was never located in the keeping. It's in the pouring.
It's the same sentence 3 times, isn't it? Not living for itself, no doubleness, the grain that doesn't hold itself back. 3 traditions, 1 mechanism. Leo. Longtime listeners might feel an echo from inside our own show, too. Way back in Chapter 2, the episode about giving everything and keeping nothing, didn't Lao Tzu already say this about the sage?
Sharp ears. Chapter 2 gave us the human scale version, to create and yet take no possession, to act and yet hold no credit, achieve merit and yet not dwell in it. Back then we practiced the micro move. Do the thing, then don't move into it. Make the dinner, then don't live inside "I made dinner" waiting for applause. Chapter 7 is Lao Tzu revealing where he learned that move. It was never etiquette. It was cosmology. The sky has been doing "take no possession" since before there was anyone to possess. If that episode is far behind you, it rewards a revisit after today. The 2 chapters read each other.
All right, but let me push one level deeper, because a skeptic could still hear all of this as poetry about the weather. The sky doesn't live for itself, lovely. I am not a sky, Leo. I'm a person with rent. What in me is this actually pointing at?
Here is where the chapter stops being about the universe. Friends, may I ask you to try something right now while you listen? Don't close your eyes. Don't change anything. Just notice. Something in you is hearing these words. Before you agree or disagree, before you like my voice or find it too slow, hearing is simply happening. Now look closely at that hearing itself. Has it ever asked for anything? It hears praise and it hears blame with exactly the same clarity. It doesn't lean toward the compliment or flinch from the insult. The leaning and the flinching come after, from somewhere else, from the accountant. But the hearing itself, the bare knowing, check for yourself. It has never once put in a request. It was open before you woke up. It's open now. It charges nothing. That, friends, that in you is what does not exist for itself is pointing at. You have been carrying a piece of heaven and earth this whole time, closer to you than your own name. Everything else in you campaigns. The opinions want to be right. The image wants to be liked. The plans want to happen. One thing alone never joined a campaign: the quiet knowing that watches all the campaigning. And Lao Tzu's claim is precise. The part of you that lives for itself is the part that exhausts and dies. The part that never lived for itself. Notice, he says, that's the part that is everlasting and enduring.
So when I'm drained like my Tuesday, that's not life spending me. That's the campaign spending me. And the one that saw the whole 11 hours of stone carrying, it wasn't tired?
Was it? Don't take my word, you were there. The carrying was exhausting. Was the seeing of the carrying exhausting? Or was it just clear? The Dutch philosopher Spinoza had a phrase for the shift you just made: to view things under the aspect of eternity. He noticed that most of our suffering comes not from how big events are, but from how close we stand, pressed up against this afternoon's insult, nose against the glass. Step back to the view of the whole, the view heaven and earth never left, and the same event becomes one wave in a very long weather system. The insult still happened, the rent is still due, but the one watching from that distance was never in the fight, and so was never wounded by it. And you can run that view once this week, in the smallest arena there is. When the message that offends you lands, notice where you're standing. Nose pressed against 2 sentences on a screen, the whole sky shrunk to 1 paragraph. Then step back, not away from the moment, back inside it, to the one in you that has watched 10,000 afternoons arrive, peak, and dissolve. From there, look again. Same message, different size. That one step backward is the entire aspect of eternity, practiced at home for free. So let's gather the first movement of this chapter into one place. Heaven lasts and earth endures, the oldest facts in sight. Why? They do not exist for themselves, hence they are long-lived. The root feeds a tree it never gets named after and is never discarded. The cell that serves the whole body lives the body's whole life. The cell that serves itself kills its own ground. The giving that keeps a ledger breaks you. The giving with no accountant in the middle never runs dry. And the place to verify all of it is not the sky. It's the bare knowing in you that has listened to this entire episode and never once asked for anything. Getting acquainted with that one, learning to recognize it, catch sight of it during an ordinary Tuesday, and let it shine a little brighter each time. That is the whole road we are walking on this show.
And next episode, the chapter turns from the sky to the street, right? The saint who puts himself last and somehow ends up in front, which sounds like it breaks every rule of careers, queues, and family group chats.
It breaks the rules exactly the way water breaks a rock, slowly and completely. That's next week. But before we go, let me leave you the question of this week. Don't answer it tonight. Let it ride along with you, in traffic, in the elevator, in the half second after your next unthanked kindness. Is there anything in you that has never once asked for anything for itself? Don't answer with a word. Watch for it.
I already know where I'll be looking. That half second. It's going to be a long week for my inner accountant.
Let the accountant watch too. It's allowed. Friends, if this hour opened even a small window of blue in a foggy week, please give the episode a like, subscribe to our channel Voice of Heavenly Tao, and share it with one person whose tank is empty from giving with a ledger. Your support is what keeps the two of us walking this road. Having learned this far, if there is any error or any clumsiness in how I've shared it, I humbly ask the wise ones and all the awakened ones before us for their compassion and their correction. Thank you, friends. We'll meet again next time.
Gratitude for the grace of heaven and virtue of teachers. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.